Okay, it looks like we are live. So, hello everyone. My name is Priya Bechu, and I'm the Vice President of UBC Young Women for STEM. I will be moderating the session. So, if we want our members to take it away and introduce themselves, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Eileen. I am a first-year master's student in pharmacology and therapeutics, and I am also the conference co-director this year for UBC Young Women for STEM.
I'm Chloe. I am a fourth year civil engineering student. I don't have a fancy title within the group, but this is my second year here. Yeah, and I guess you'll hear more about my studies in a moment.
I'm Ekaterina. I'm a third year microbiology and immunology student, and I am the other conference co-director at UBC Young Women for STEM.
Okay, great. Thanks for introducing yourselves. Our first question is, why did you choose UBC?
So for myself, my family actually, we live in Vancouver, and so a big part of it, I have to say, was honestly out of convenience. But also, more importantly, I think, in between choosing between schools in BC, UBC has a particularly strong research program. And so I largely chose it for this reason because of its research excellence. And yeah.
Again, coming from a different perspective, I chose UBC because of all the different design teams that the engineering discipline has. So you can, and I am building a bridge out of steel that's 22 feet long and we're taking to competition. My boyfriend is building a car to get like optimum gas mileage. I know someone else who's programming a sailbot to sail across the ocean on its own. And that's just like a sample of all of the many things that UBC design teams can do. And it just, when I was going into UBC and university in general, it fascinated me at all the different directions that I could take it and all the different hands-on applications that I could use.
For me, it was also because I live in Vancouver and I didn't really want to move away. So UBC was one of my top choices. And also I want to apply to medical school at UBC. And I thought that it would be nice to do my bachelor's at UBC as well, so that I don't have to adjust while also, entering medical school.
Awesome. And what is one of your favorite classes that you've taken so far? It can be something within your major, not within your major, but yeah.
So I actually did my degree in biology, my bachelor's degree in biology, which allowed me to take a very wide variety of courses. And I have to say, probably one of my favorite ones was entomology, introduction to entomology. And so actually one of my projects was I had to make an insect collection. And so I spent many weekends just going out and searching for insects and identifying them under the microscope. So I really loved that flexibility with my program.
I am torn between two favorite classes, and those are fluid mechanics and structural analysis. So you can tell I'm the engineer in the group. But those two favorite classes are actually because of the profs. So fluid mechanics I took with Greg Lawrence, and structural analysis I took with Dr. Hawkes, both of who really explained things in a way that it was almost like I was coming up with it myself. And I think there's a lot of good profs within the faculty and the science faculty too, but it'll get us into a tip for later. But look at your rate my profs, because the profs make a world of difference. And I think those profs are the reason that those are the classes and the concepts that I enjoy the most and the ones that I'm looking at pursuing later on.
For me, I also kind of have two favorite classes, I would say. One of them is, it actually was my first immunology course in second year, microbiology 202. And yeah, it was just the first immunology heavy course that I was taking in my bachelor's degree, and I loved it just so much. It was my favorite subject. And the second one would be, it's not one particular course, but I just like French courses at UBC. And I have to say, just like Chloe said, profs make a lot of difference here. So you really have to choose your profs when you're taking French courses. Some of them make them really interesting. Some of them make them really informative and less interactive, I would say, which is also fine in some courses like grammar. But yeah, those would be my two favorite kind of areas.
All great answers. The next question is, what's one of your best study tips or other tips that can make you successful in university?
I think I know what Chloe's going to say, so I'll leave that one for her to explain. But I think another good one is just pick courses that you're actually interested in. Like, look at the content of the course before you choose it. Do not just choose it because you think it'll be a GPA booster or just because your friends are in it. Like, genuinely pick courses that you want to learn more about. And secondly, and maybe this is a personal one because I am not an early bird, but do not take 8 a.m. courses. Yeah.
Probably going to surprise you here, Eileen, but my tip would be to learn when you work best, because I am a morning person. And some of the best studying and homework that I've gotten done is when I actually get up at 5 a.m. and go to school. And it's disgusting. And I hate myself in the morning, but it means I get twice as much stuff done as I would if I did the same amount of time in the afternoon. And it's really easy to just stare at something and feel like you're doing homework, but actually accomplish nothing. And I mean, you can do that if that makes you feel better about yourself. It makes me feel better about myself when I haven't done enough. But if you're being proactive, you want to learn when you work best and take advantage of it, even if it sucks to get up in the morning when it's dark and rainy. And I will explain Rate My Prof because I think that's a very valuable tool. There's a website called Rate My Prof, and I'm sure there's other ones, but that's what I know. And people will leave reviews for the professor based on how they teach the class, how they interact with students, how hard their assignments are. And most people also put on the website how they did overall in the class. I think the most valuable tool is knowing how the professor interacts with you. If they have office hours, if they're willing to answer questions, if they explain things well. It's really worth looking into that, especially when there's multiple different classes or multiple different sections of the same course that you want to take. Highly recommend Rate My Prof. Not paid.
Yeah, I second. Rate My Prof just makes my courses, planning my courses so much easier and less painful afterwards. But my study tip would be to really kind of organize all of your classes together in one calendar. So what I mean is look through all of the syllabi and note all of the important dates in one calendar and set reminders. Like, I set a bunch of reminders like 2 weeks in advance, a week in advance, a day in advance. It just helps me stay on top of things and not cram for assignments and exams, because cramming is just painful and it doesn't get you places. So yeah, it's nice to have it all in one place so you can see the big picture and plan your time well in advance.
Those are all really great tips that I definitely second. Our next question is, what has been one of your most favorite parts of your university career so far?
I think I have to circle back to just how diverse your education can really be if you want it to be. So like I mentioned before, I did my bachelor's in biology. but I also did a minor in French. And so I loved exploring both the arts and the sciences at the same time before finally deciding on a very specific thesis for my master's. So yeah.
I would take that question a different direction and say my favorite part about university has been the university experience. That being moving away from home because I'm not from Vancouver, kind of cooking for myself, fending for myself, setting my own time schedule and making friends and studying with friends and, going off on a tangent and making jokes about physics because that's what we don't want to think about and we have to. And then just combining all of that into one life that you kind of get to pick. For me, it was the first time that, I'm out from my parents' roof. And I think that's probably the same with a lot of people. Not necessarily saying that home has to be a bad place and you can miss it, but you get to make exactly what you want out of university.
For me, the best part would be lab classes. I never thought I'd say that, but when I got into actual microbiology labs, I really, really enjoyed it. And compared to the classes that I took previously, like the lab classes, I really understood what was going on and why we were doing the things that we were doing. And that just felt really like all of that learning that I did before, it kind of summed up to understanding what's going on in practice. So that was really fulfilling, I would say.
Great. And the next question is, what has surprised you most about university?
That's a really great question. And I think that's something I asked a bunch of people when I was first starting university as well. And they always said, how different it is from high school. And I don't think it really hit me until I was in university. Just the larger class sizes, the shorter school terms as well, like the information is a lot more condensed. But on a positive note, I think honestly how much fun I would have. I don't think I started thinking that I would make as many friends or get to know as many wonderful people as I have over the past 5 years. I kind of thought I would always stick with my high school friends forever, but that has really changed, and I've met some really diverse people, and it's been a very fun ride.
On a similar note to how different university is from high school, I would say it surprised me how much initiative you have to take to do well and stay on top of things. And that goes back to the calendar that Ekaterina was talking about, but it's more than that. I think it's you're the only one who's responsible for making yourself go to lectures. You need to know when enough is enough on your assignment, whether you need to stay up until 2 a.m. or whether you should just submit it now. And the initiative of knowing when to start and when to stop and just all of it kind of getting around to it. It's all on you now. Nobody's really saying, hey, this is due next week. Where is it? It's you. And so that I would say is very different. And you're going to hear, oh, university is so different. They make you write in pen or something silly. Like I heard all of those silly things in high school and I was like, nah. And it's just, you don't have to be formal. Sometimes your prof will show up in Crocs. You're going to hear a lot of things that make university sound sterner, and I don't think it is. I think it's just more on you.
What surprised me was how vast the university is, not just in terms of space, although that's also true, but just the amount of different programs and clubs and services available and different research directions and just everything. There's just so much to explore. And in first year, I got a little bit overwhelmed with that because I really didn't expect it. But on that note, I would really recommend to explore the areas that you feel like you might enjoy, even if it seems unlikely, because you never know, you might find something that you really like in everything, clubs and courses and volunteering. So
again, really good answers. So the next question is, what type of research were you exposed to? What type of experiences kind of have you had throughout your university career? Chloe, you could talk about maybe some more work that you've done on your design team. Yeah.
So I think I'm definitely a bit biased, and I have a bit of a unique experience with research. I had a really amazing opportunity right out of high school to join a lab. And so, you know, me being bushy-eyed and like bright-eyed, like entered a lab. And I've been there, you know, ever since. I've gone back every summer during my undergrad, and it's actually now currently the lab that I'm working in, and I'm most likely going to pursue a PhD in as well. And so I guess, yeah, I should explain what kind of research I do. So I do lung research. And so every summer I got to explore a different area. Like my first summer, I started with asthma research. And then the following summers, I explored, you know, COPD and IPF, and I actually got to collaborate with different labs. So research has been a huge part of my life, and is continuing to be a huge part of my life if I am going to stay in academia. So, yeah.
Yeah, so as Priya kind of alluded to, I don't have a lot of research experience. Most of the research that happens in the department, I think, is above me and will always be above me, because engineering is a lot about the application of what we already know. And there are master's and PhD students who are trying to find out more, but from my perspective, I just want to build it. And I think that's a good segue into talking about my design team. That I mentioned a bit about before, but I'm on the steel bridge design team, which means we build a 22-foot long steel bridge every year out of new steel every year with a new design every year. And it's kind of a good experience to look at it and talk about how I told you I take analysis classes, but how do those actually apply to the real world? How do we design from what we know about analysis to see how much can it hold, and then you want to take that and turn it around and say, how much do I have to put of steel there in order for it to hold this amount of a load? And obviously that's a different experience from research, but it gives you the same kind of hands-on approach to what you are learning. And in my case, it gives you practice applying it, and it is quite similar to some of the things that I've done in my co-ops. And I think a lot of it is similar to something that I could end up doing in a future job.
So in January, I started my first co-op term at a company. They're focused on kinases, but my position is antibody research and development. So I'm just starting to participate in some research. I'm actually involved in a couple of different projects. So one of them is exploring the biomarkers for ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And the other project focuses on transcription factors in cancer cells. So I'm just kind of hovering from one project to another and helping the master students who are doing those projects perform their experiments and kind of learning about research that way. But so far, I'm really enjoying it, and I learn a lot of new techniques that are not directly related to my major, but since it is antibody research, like I learn about antibodies. which is very interesting and helpful. However, I got to say that most of the techniques that I learn are biochemistry, and I believe that I will be able to apply them in any lab that I go to. So that's really helpful.
Great. I'm glad that everyone kind of had a different area that they pulled on from, summer, being a summer student, design team, and co-op. I think it's gives kind of students a broad range of opportunities that are available at UBC. And so the next question is, what do you wish you knew in first year?
I think besides all the academic tips that we gave before, this might be cheesy, but just really focus on your mental health as well. Like, do not let that slide. There are so many resources at UBC, particularly I think when I was in first year, they only gave $500 worth of allowance for the amount you were allowed to use for counseling sessions, but now it's 1,500. And so I really encourage everybody to get a therapist, even if you don't think you have any issues or whatever. It's always helpful to have that support there, particularly if it's being offered.
I think Eileen's tip is a lot more important than mine, but I'm going to say don't buy textbooks until the absolute last minute. I bought most of them in first year, and I don't think I opened all of them. And in the end, I think in my now 3 years of schooling, I only needed one. So they are expensive, and quite often I don't think they're worth the money.
And don't buy them brand new.
Yeah, I second all of that. My tip would be just be prepared to explore, I guess. Everything, come with an open mind. And even if you think that, oh, I'm set on law school, or I'm set on med school, right? Just be ready to explore and find out what you really want to do. I'm not saying that you should kind of, go in all the different directions that you think you might like in the future, but pick a few and try to see what you like. Just don't close yourself into that one career path or that one goal. Just try to enjoy it, I guess. In first year, you can take a bunch of different courses that can really show you what it is that you will enjoy doing in life.
Great. And the next question is, what are your career plans or goals after graduation?
Well, I think my intention is to transition and fast track into a PhD. During my PhD, I intend to, figure out the eternal question of industry versus academia. But I'm open-minded, so I guess no plans as of yet, but to figure it out.
I'm definitely a planner, but there is nothing wrong with just figuring it out. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. And I would almost encourage it, because I think I've got my mind set on the way I'm going to go, and I'm just going to do it instead of doing what Ekaterina said and explore. But after I graduate, I will be working towards my PEng, which is a professional engineering designation, which allows me to take responsibility for my designs. Engineering is a self-governed body, so that's awarded by EGBC, which is the British Columbia version of Engineers Canada, I guess. And they're just going to say, yeah, she's got all her stuff together, she knows what she's doing, and she's had the experience. And I think that's a very important step in an engineering career. So that's kind of my next goal after grad.
After all the exploring that I invite everybody to do, I actually decided that I am set on medicine. So yeah, I am applying to med school in probably September of this year, maybe September of next year, but sometime soon. But I also want to fit in a year of going to France to just learn the language, because I have been taking it since grade 9, and I feel like I'm at a good level to just go and immerse myself into the French culture and speak to some French people. So yeah, I don't know. I have to figure that one out.
Great. And this is probably just a question for Eileen, but you may have kind of a different perspective. Do you have any tips or recommendations for applying to graduate school?
Yeah, so I think a popular conception or myth that people have is that like grades are the most important thing. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not. Yes, they're important. Like stay in school, like go to your classes and try to do well. Try your best, you know, but your personal connections and experiences are actually very valuable as well, almost equally, if not more valuable. So like I said before, I was very fortunate to have entered a lab like so early on in my career, particularly a lab that I really enjoy working in, with a strong female mentor, which I think was just so amazing to have throughout my undergrad. And so I guess my biggest tip is, if you want to go to grad school, try to get more experience early on. So volunteer in a lab if you can. Co-op experience is also amazing. But yeah, forming those personal connections is really what's going to get you in. Having a supervisor who you can trust and they trust you to produce good work and to finish your thesis is very crucial. So yeah, those are that's my big tip.
Sounds good. Thank you. And our last question is there anything else you would recommend to someone considering attending university or considering a degree in STEM?
Oh, okay. I guess I go again. This is a good question. It's very open-ended. And I think I have to just say, like, do it with an open mind, like Ekaterina said. Like, just go in and be open to explore. Do things that you think you won't even like. You know, I took a couple of courses which I was like, maybe I'd be interested in, you know, biomechanics, found out that I wasn't. Be open-minded with volunteer experience, be open-minded with your courses, and last tip, I guess, is just to be safe. Don't party too hard, and yeah.
I don't know where to start on this one. I feel like there's a lot of important things to say. I think the biggest one that you're probably going to hear a lot, but it's true, is you don't have to know what you're doing when you come. I know people in engineering who've come into engineering from business, and I know so many people in engineering who've gone a million different directions out of it. If you take a gap year and figure out what you're doing, great. But I think actually being there and taking the classes is probably going to be the best way to figure out what you do and don't like, and what direction you want to go. And if you decide after first year you don't want to do it, or you decide after third year you don't want to do it, I think ultimately your goal is to do what you want and what you enjoy. I know a lot of people who started in engineering because their parents said so. And I think that's probably true of a lot of STEM degrees, is external pressure. It's a great degree, don't get me wrong, but it's not a great degree if you don't like it. So choose for you and do what you want. And if you don't know what you want, try something.
I would say that just with university, it's good to really rest that summer, the last summer before first year, because I didn't, and I regret it because I came in a little bit drained, and that made my first semester just a little harder than it had to be. So just get together with friends, go abroad, do something fun that you remember. Just enjoy it. Don't try to study ahead for classes, because if you rest well, you're going to study well anyways. So, yeah.
Sorry, just as everyone was talking, I thought of a couple of more points that I would actually really recommend. First year is the hardest. And if you can get through first year, you can do the rest of your degree. First year was definitely the most rough for myself. And I know with a lot of my friends, it was just gotta hang on tight and then make it through, and then you'll be all right. And in terms of financial support, university can be expensive. So do apply to scholarships. Do not underestimate the importance of them. And you can continue to apply for them for funding and stuff during your degree. So always be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. Those are all very good tips. Does anyone else have anything else to add? Last minute thoughts? If not, we will end our session there. I would just like to thank all the members for their very lovely and insightful answers to the questions. And if you haven't already, please check out our website and some of their presentations.